Good morning to you, dear friends. Thank you for joining me again on this lovely Thursday morning. It is beautiful here in the southern Piedmont of North Carolina, and when I talk with you next week, it will be springtime for sure. It won't just feel like it, it'll be springtime. Today we're going to go back to the Old Testament, and we're going to talk a little bit about two characters, Samuel and Saul. This is from the 15th chapter of 1 Samuel, and we're not going to cover everything that's in there, just sort of the highlights. I'm preparing to preach this Sunday with my good friends down at the First Presbyterian Church of Woodruff, and this is the portion before my sermon for this weekend. So I've been thinking about context, and this provides a greater context for what happens in my sermon this Sunday. We begin in the 15th chapter of 1 Samuel with God sending a message to Saul through Samuel. And this message is that God has decided it is time for the Amalekites to pay for the way they treated the Israelites when they came in from Egypt. And God's command to Saul is that he will engage the Amalekites in battle. And he is to totally annihilate the Amalekites. Nobody is supposed to be left. Nothing breathing is supposed to be left. They're not even supposed to take the booty, the valuable things when they finish. And God's clear, this is what you're supposed to do. So Saul did engage the Amalekites in battle, and he did defeat them. However, Saul allowed the king of the Amalekites to live. He took him prisoner. Saul did not annihilate the livestock. He took the best livestock and the valuable things from the people of Amalek. He was disobedient. And because of his disobedience, the Lord came back to Samuel and said, I have rejected Saul. I have taken my blessing away from him. This is the last straw. He has disobeyed me, and I'm done. Saul is caught. And I think he behaves somewhat like a child in this situation, because Samuel goes and tells him what God said. You're rejected. Sorry, Buster. You picked the wrong time and the wrong person to disobey. So he makes excuses. Saul says, well, I just took the livestock so that I could go and sacrifice them. I just went and did that. Well, Saul actually went and built a temple to himself. And he wasn't really sacrificing the animals necessarily to God, but more sacrificing them for himself. And Samuel said, it's just too late. It's just too late. You have messed up, and God has rejected you, and that's just the way it is. And then Samuel takes things into his own hands, and he brings the king of the Amalekites to him, and the Bible says he hewed him piece from piece. He didn't just kill him, he dissected him. He cut him into pieces. And there are a lot of things about this story that are disturbing. One of the first things that I find disturbing is that the God that we know in Jesus Christ is a God of mercy and grace. But the God that we see in this story, who demands that everything living and breathing be annihilated, is not that same merciful God. Nor is God merciful to Saul when he's caught in his disobedience. Now, that's not as yucky because, Saul was really not. Yeah, he lied. He just lied about why he kept the spoils of that battle. And that's difficult for a lot of people to reconcile this avenging God of the Old Testament with the merciful, loving God of the New Testament. And I acknowledge that. That's a difficult thing. But I've learned a few things about God in my life. one of those things that I have learned about God is that God is mystery, and God cannot be explained. This is one of those places where I can't explain God's actions, and that's not my place either. I have simply chosen to believe what is revealed about God in the Bible, and to understand and to accept the fact that I don't understand it all, and I won't. So I hope that as you read these stories in the Old Testament of the avenging God, that you will realize that, yeah, that's a part of God. God really means it when he tells you to do something. In fact, there's an important verse in that 15th chapter of 1 Samuel. Samuel says to Saul, to obey is better than sacrifice. And that too is a very difficult word to hear, because most of us find it a lot easier to sacrifice than it is to obey God. That's a short one today. And again, not a very helpful one necessarily, but remember, we can't understand God and we're not supposed to. I hope you have a great weekend, and I will see you next week when it's springtime. Goodbye. Have a good weekend. Bye.